Hello, my name is Heath Jones, and welcome to the Northwood Podcast. Or if you're watching this on Facebook, or if you're watching this on YouTube, welcome, or to our listeners who are listening to it audibly through their podcast app, whatever they use to access podcast. Welcome to all of you. If you're watching this on YouTube, I invite you to subscribe to our channel. This will make it easier for you to find our videos, and you'll also be notified when another video is released. Or if you're watching this on our Facebook page, just follow our Facebook page so you'll be kept aware of our updates and notifications and announcements, and you can engage other people who like to watch there as well. Or if you're listening to this in a podcast by way of whatever app that you use to listen to podcasts, please subscribe and or follow so that it'll be easier for you to not only find our content, but also these points of engagement, I'm told, would drive traffic our way, and we would be very grateful for that. And so we'd appreciate if you'd subscribe to this podcast or follow us, depending on whichever app you are using. I should also say that this podcast is made available by way of the All Indiana Podcast Network. That's a network of podcasts made available by Wish TV. You can find more podcasts produced by the All Indiana Podcast Network if you type in www.wishtv.com/podcasts. wishtv.com/podcasts. And all of this, from my end, is a production of Northwood Christian Church. And if you'd like to learn more about our church, please feel free to check out our website, which is www.indYncc.org. That's www.indncc.org. And there you'll be able to find past sermons and recordings of Bible studies, as well as information about our ministries and service times, or how you can become involved in our ministries and our different efforts, and also how you can contribute monetarily if you like. Now, if you're listening to this as a podcast, you will be likely hearing an advertisement after these words. But if not, let's go ahead and get to it. Today, we are going to be going over Luke chapter 14, verses 25 through 33, and it goes. Now large crowds were traveling with him, and he turned and said to them, "Whoever comes to me and does not hate father and mother, wife and children, brothers and sisters, yes, and even life itself, cannot be my disciple. Whoever does not carry the cross and follow me cannot be my disciple. For which of you, intending to build a tower, does not first sit down and estimate the cost to see whether he has enough to complete it? Otherwise, when he has laid a foundation and is not able to finish, all who see it will begin to ridicule him, saying, 'This fellow began to build and was not able to finish.' Or what king, going out to wage war against another king, will not sit down first and consider whether he is able with 10,000 to oppose the one who comes against him with 20,000? If he cannot, then while the other is still far away, he sends a delegation and asks for the terms of peace. So therefore, none of you can become my disciple if you do not give up all your possessions." If you are a church that follows the lectionary, like my church most often does follow the lectionary, selected readings given to all churches all over the place, so we can kind of all be reading the same things and going off of the same lessons. If you're a church like that, then you'll know that we've been trudging through the Gospel of Luke for months now, and we'll continue to do so throughout the remainder of this liturgical year. And I'm not complaining, because Luke's my favorite gospel. So this is really playing to my strengths or my tastes. I like it because it elevates the poor and the marginalized people, as well as it has constant warnings about the dangers of materialism and greed. And as a preacher, I've enjoyed pontificating about some of my favorite soapbox topics as I've engaged Luke's gospel for these past several months. But eventually the preacher and the reader alike must come down to earth and today's lesson is one of those coming down to earth moments, because in the 14th chapter, Jesus forces his all would-be disciples to consider what the life of a Christian may cost us. One of the lines that jumps out at us, one of the more popular lines, is the 27th verse. Whoever does not carry the cross and follow me cannot be my disciple. Jesus is not only foreshadowing his own death here, but he is also warning his disciples up front about the cost of joining him in his efforts to bring God's realm near. And confession, I've preached sermons on this text several times in the past, and they've usually been, or maybe in every instance, have been about as uplifting as taking a cold bath. Dire warnings about the dangers of living as a faithful Christian. Well, these ideas do not leave us with buoyant, can-do attitudes, which is why I would like to take this opportunity, as I'm talking about this text today, to refocus on the end goal, what we are striving for in the first place, because only then can we determine if what it costs us along the way is worth it. But first, we have to talk about the cost. We must talk about the cost, for this is, after all, the whole point of Jesus' teaching here. And my goodness, what a price to pay. Take up your cross. We already alluded to that. In other words, taking up the cause of Jesus can be like going to your own execution. And it's not enough that you're to go to your own execution, but you have to carry the instrument of your demise, the cross, as well. So the way there is arduous, and in the end is not pleasant. And then he goes on to talk about our relationships and makes us aware that we had better be prepared to face some pushback. And sometimes the pushback can come from the people who are very close to us. The quote goes, "If anyone comes to me and does not hate father and mother, wife and children, brothers and sisters, yes, even their own life, such a person cannot be my disciple." Those are harsh words. Hate language? Are we really supposed to hate? Well, Jesus would often use language that's very harsh and grating to drive an important point home. I'm reminded of these other sayings of Jesus that also push the limits of our credulity. Those lines like, if your eye causes you to sin, pluck it out. And if your hand causes you to sin, cut it off. And now, if we took statements like these absolutely literally, then each one of us would be eyeless and limbless. And I suppose, taking today's text into account, we'd be friendless or without family as well. These are not literal prescriptions, but are rather jarring statements meant to shake us up and highlight the gravity of our calling. I mean, love your family. You should. But realize that your call to discipleship is the most important thing. So important, in fact, that all other relationships must be seen as secondary. And sometimes, your own family might drive you crazy or think that you're crazy. And you've probably heard stories of houses divided along ideological lines. And for the disciples, this was certainly true. It is likely that some of their family members thought that they were crazy when they left their vocations to follow an itinerant preacher named Jesus of Nazareth. So it had better be worth it. But such a high price. The cost is great. And frankly, I can't believe that we're surprised. After all, isn't anything worthwhile bound to cost something? And if you're going to take on something that's important, you would be prepared. You had better be prepared to fit the bill when the time comes. Supposing you were invited out to eat by a friend, and you enjoy a wonderful meal, and the check comes, and your friend begins feeling about for his pockets and then shrugs and says, "I didn't know it would cost that much. I guess you'll have to pay." Putting you on the spot. You'd think, come on. Why did you ask me here to eat if you didn't know what it would cost you before you had me out to lunch? That's kid stuff. There are more serious undertakings, challenges that we could tackle and achieve for some higher goal, something more worthwhile. My cousin, for instance, set out to hike one of the world's most famous hiking trails. It's in Spain. And then a year later, my brother would join him on the same journey. Arduous. And they described the mountains and the valleys. And when they returned, they told me about all the sorts of interesting people. And now and again, they'd meet someone who was near giving up along the path, along the way, along these difficult trails. Or others who had already made the decision to give up. Perhaps one person underestimated the physical toll that it would take. Another might have not realized how much time it would take to complete the trail. It takes weeks, by the way. And then some maybe didn't carry enough provisions, and you get the idea. And it's like that with any significant endeavor. If you're going to go out at all, you had better count the cost. Otherwise, you'll find yourself disappointed and frustrated. This is true of all of the big things, the things that are worthwhile in life, true of marriage, child rearing, starting a business. You'd better know what all of the important things will cost you. And the more valuable the undertaking is, the more it will likely cost of your time, your energy, resources, and everything, your very life. So Jesus gives a couple more examples. I just gave some modern ones. His were more relatable to his audience. Suppose someone wants to build something like a tower, he says. You better know what it would take. You'd be stupid not to. The people in your town would call you a fool if you showed up with a few rusty nails and a handful of poorly hewn boards and thought you'd end up with a tower in the end. So you'd better calculate the cost and decide if this is something that you even want to do. Are you ready for it? Jesus goes on to say, or suppose someone were going to go to battle, say some king going to go fight another king, and if you were that king, you'd be a poor leader if you didn't properly estimate the cost in terms of human life spent and resources drained. You'd also want to know if you could accomplish what you wanted to before you even set out. Today, it seems that this parable has come to life in our own time as we consider wars that we've fought or are fighting now, all over the globe, different countries. But I digress. All of it, whatever you are going out to do, if it is difficult or important, it will cost you. All worthwhile endeavors will cost you, which is why I want to land this sermon by bringing our attention back to the end goal here. Because it will cost you. Carry your cross. But with all of this focus on the sacrifice and on carrying our crosses, one can lose sight of the prize at the end of this difficult road. And the end goal is the realm of God, the result of Christ's work that we are setting out to accomplish along with Jesus is the restoration of what is broken, the redemption of all that may be redeemed. The end result of Jesus' efforts will be the vision that he cast in Luke chapter 4 coming alive around us. In that text, and I quote it often, it's my favorite passage where Jesus in the synagogue quotes from the prophet Isaiah saying, "The Spirit of the Lord is upon me because he has anointed me to bring good news to the poor. He has sent me to proclaim release to the captives and recovery of sight to the blind, to let the oppressed go free, to proclaim the year of the Lord's favor." And it's a beautiful vision for our future here portrayed. Too much. One in which the poor are finally met with good news and the oppressed are let free, where economic burdens are alleviated in this year of the Lord's favor. But what it costs us to arrive at such a world may well be worth it. And it's Jesus' contention that it is worth it. The cost of being a disciple of Jesus is great, but the world we are striving for here described by Jesus and by the prophet Isaiah, this world we are striving for, along with Jesus, is well worth what it costs to get us there. And true, we've a cross to carry, but the burden is gladly borne if the end result is liberation for us all. Worthy goals always cost something in their pursuit, and there are obvious examples in history of this. Inventors who have spent time, resources, and their life's energies to create something important. Athletes who spend years at the cost of sweat and tears to train for competition, or those who have advanced civil rights in important ways have done so often at great cost to themselves. Some have even given their very lives in pursuit of the dream. So let us count the cost of being a disciple of Jesus, but let us not lose sight of what we hope for as we journey forward. Let's not lose sight of the good news While the journey between our current reality and the world that God desires has been fraught, the desired result is life for us all. All movements toward liberation have come at a cost. We've been naming these things. It cost the abolitionists of the 19th century much to advocate for the freedom of slaves. It cost civil rights advocates much to advocate for freedoms right up until this present moment. It still costs us, but when God's purposes are achieved and when liberated peoples finally find their voice or some room or some air to breathe or some dignity, those who make sacrifices along the way generally agree that what it cost them to fight the good fight was worth it in the end. It will cost you, but this is the way to life. Did you think it'd be cheap? The lives of the saints bear witness to the cost, but also the joy of living the life of a disciple. Purpose, meaning, love, living in the truth. So many blessings, and after death still more. Easter is not a pipe dream. It is the deep reality of our existence that in losing our life we find it. That in leaving it all behind to follow Jesus' call, we gain everything that really matters. Life that is life. At least, this is what they tell me. That, what it costs us, what is gained by giving our all for the cause of Jesus, is worth every penny. So count the cost. And once you have come to terms with the life Jesus calls us to, enter into this life. Enter into the joy of journeying with Jesus toward a better world for us all. This has been the Northwood Podcast. If you like what we are doing here, please subscribe to the podcast by way of whatever app you use to listen, or leave a comment. These points of engagement drive more traffic our way, or so I've been told. Or you might check out our website at www.indyncc.org. That's ndncc.org. And also check out the other podcasts produced by the All Indiana Podcast Network. Until next time, this has been the Northwood Podcast. I'm Heath Jones. Peace.